Welcome to the Play-by-Play with Patrick and Brandon. You're a home for updates and insights into the sports world. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Play-by-Play. As always, I'm Patrick, and I'm here with Brandon. How are you doing today, Brandon?
Doing fantastic. Just got done with my easy run for the day, so a little tired, but as always, ready to talk about sports, answer viewer questions, engage in some tomfoolery, hopefully. So let's get into it.
All right. So I think I want to start the MLB trade deadline, I believe, is today at 6 p.m. And there's been a lot going on, a lot of trades. So what I did was I went to MLB.com and they made a list of their 15 most impactful trades up to this point during the trade deadline week. So I believe they captured everything from earlier this morning to last Thursday, and they picked out 15 trades in particular. I'll run through them, and then if you want, Brandon, you can give your opinions on some of them, and then I'll bring up some things I thought. Definitely a lot of names moving around. So we have the Padres acquiring pitchers Mason Miller and J.P. Sears for shortstop Leo DeVries, and then pitchers Braden Nett, Henry Baez, and Eduardo Nunez, who I believe all three of them are prospects in the MLB pipeline. The Mariners acquire third baseman Eugenio Suarez from the Diamondbacks for pipeline prospects Tyler Locklear, Hunter Cranton, and Juan Burgos. And just as a disclaimer, there are a lot of names here. I'm probably not going to get all of them right, but I'll try my best.
I don't, to be perfectly honest, I'm not even sure who half of these guys are. I guess it shows my very surface level ball knowledge of MLB players, but
Yeah, so an absurd amount of
we
trades at
move.
this deadline have been pipeline prospects. Like we talk about that first trade involving the Padres. It was a really good win now move for the Padres because they acquired two pretty good pitchers. Mason Miller has one of the best arms in baseball. He's got an absolute cannon. I believe he currently holds a record for fastest pitch in the
Damn.
MLB, like as an active player. Yeah, he's got an absolute cannon. And then JP Sears is also a very serviceable pitcher. So they're really just increasing the strength of their rotation. I guess I was going to talk about that later, but while we paused, I'll talk about it now. And then it really puts the other team in more of a, rebuild mode. Um, and so that's going to be good for them. But moving on, I believe I stopped with the Mariners trade, which again, I believe there's also some pipeline prospects involved in that one. So there are going to be a decent amount of names that most people haven't heard, and I think that's kind of the story of this MLB trade deadline is you have a ton of teams, offloading talent, looking to rebuild, and then you have a couple teams in particular, which I'll talk about later, who are most assuredly buying, trying to retool for the MLB playoffs. But moving on, the Phillies acquired Joan Duran from the Twins for Eduardo Tate and Mick Abel.
Okay, word
And
about that one. I actually saw the notification for this one on my phone, and my heart skipped a beat because I saw Phillies acquire Duran, and I
you
thought that
thought it
the
was
Red
Jaron.
Sox had just, I thought the Red Sox had just sent my glorious king, Jaron Duran, uh, to Philadelphia, and that that would have been devastating.
Yeah, it would
For a
have
second,
sucked.
that's what I thought happened because at this point, I wouldn't put past
Yeah, very
any
Red Sox move.
reason. Yeah, it would have been, promising young star, face of the franchise, everyone loves him. Let's send him to Philadelphia. It seemed like a John Henry, Craig Breslow move, but thank goodness it's just Johan Duran from the Twins. It doesn't matter. It's Johan Duran is safe in Boston. But yeah, that definitely had me scared for a split second.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Moving on, we had the Mets acquire Ryan Helsley from the Cardinals for Jesus Baez, Nate Dome, and Frank Ellisalt. The Blue Jays, the first of their many appearances on this list, or I believe two or three appearances. The Blue Jays acquired Shane Bieber from the Guardians for Cal Steven. The Yankees acquired Ryan McMahon from the Rockies for Griffin Herring and Josh Gross. The Mariners acquired Josh Naylor from the Diamondbacks for Brandon Garcia and Ashton Izzy. The Reds acquired Zach Littell. The Rays acquired Hunter Fiducia, Brian Van Bell, and the Dodgers acquired Adam Serwanowski, Paul Gervais, and Ben Rortvedt in a little three-team trade. Shades of the NBA on that one. I feel like the three-team trade has become a lot more common as of late.
Definitely.
And then we got the Mets acquiring Tyler Rogers from the Giants for Jose Butto, Blade Tidwell, and Drew Gilbert. And then we have the Reds acquiring Cabrian Hayes from the Pirates for Sammy Stafora and Taylor Rogers. The Cubs acquired Michael Soroka from the Nationals for Christian Franklin and Ronnie Cruz. The Blue Jays back again acquired Sir Anthony Dominguez from the Orioles for Juaron Watts Brown. The Tigers acquired Chris Paddock and Randy Dobnak from the Twins for Enrique Jimenez. The Yankees acquired Ahmed Rosario from the Nationals for Clayton Beeter and Brown Martinez. And the Brewers acquired Danny Jansen for Jader Arenamo. So a couple of my notes, and then I'll ask you what you're thinking. The two biggest movers at the deadline have most assuredly been the Yankees and the Blue Jays. They've made the most impactful trades, and they're definitely looking to retool their teams. I mean, you look at the two teams sitting on the top of the AL East. The Yankees made the World Series last year and have not necessarily been struggling, but not been up to the caliber they were last year. So you see them retool their team, put themselves in a more of a win now mode. And then the Blue Jays are firing back, currently sitting on top of the AL East, trying to remain there because they also look like they can make a run this year. Um, so big wins for both of them. Who this is bad for is the Boston Red Sox, who have also been good, but they've been competing back and forth for that second seed in the AL East with the New York Yankees, and they've done nothing at the deadline. So we have to, keep capturing lightning in a bottle and keep the win streak going. Obviously they had a little downtime after the All-Star break, but it seems like they're back pretty successfully. So we'll see what happens with that. Another notably active team is the Reds, who are third in the NL Central, which is maybe the most competitive division in baseball right now. There's a tons of wins out there. You got the Brewers sitting in first up in that division. But there are three teams at the top who are pretty close right now. So you see the Reds trying to make that push to either earn themselves the first seed in the division, or just potentially earn a wild card spot into the playoffs. The Twins definitely offloading a lot of talents in this trade deadline. It's been kind of a tough road for them, so it looks like they're going to be headed more towards a rebuild in this one. That's sort of what I noticed. The biggest movers in the trade deadline. I'm curious, Brandon, what have you seen? Are there any particular trades that you've liked, or are there any teams you're looking out for after this?
I think going into the deadline, I kind of anticipated the Yankees trying to be active because I mean that they I can't imagine anyone in the Yankees front office likes being second and kind of struggling compared to their success from last year. And I would say that this is a very I was a little disappointed as a Boston Red Sox fan that we weren't a little bit more active and we didn't try to, make any
Were you
moves
not
to
expecting
improve the
this?
team. I I was expecting to be disappointed. I usually am with our front office decisions. But I was kind of hoping that with our sort of recent run of form that we might invest into, upgrading the team. But to be fair, after a little stumble out the gates post All-Star break, the Red Sox have sort of returned to form. They looked really good. They took a series win against the Dodgers. Uh, some highlights from that include the beginning of I think it was the second game of that series. Garrett Crochet got taken yard on his second pitch by Shohei Ohtani, and I was like, oh crap, we're going to be in for a long night, huh? And then he proceeded to not allow, I think he allowed 2 runs in the first inning, and then he didn't allow a run for the rest of the game. He struck out Shohei twice following the initial home run. So, I mean, what more can be said about Garrett Crochet at this point? And most recently, I think just yesterday, the Red Sox put an absolute mollywhopping on the Minnesota Twins, took them down 13-1. Jaron Duran hit 4 RBIs, so the bats are popping. Uh, our pitching, obviously, in that game wasn't terrible, and as long as we got Crochet and Walker Buehler doesn't play too terrible, we'll be in an all right situation, I think. But yeah, that's kind of what I've got on the MLB. And then as far as the National League looks, That NL Central is a tough division. You got four teams over .500. That's just ridiculous. You got the
Yeah.
Cardinals are like 55 and 55. The Reds are, I think, 2.5 games ahead of them. And then the Cubs and the Brewers have like a game separating them, and they're both over 60 wins. Like that is tough.
Yeah, you talk about that. I mean, the Brewers have been the hottest team in baseball. I believe they very recently took the one seed from the Cubs in that division.
Yep.
It's just an arms war out there. I mean, you look at the trade deadline list, and you saw a couple of those teams. I mean, I brought up the Reds specifically, but the Brewers and the Cubs were both on that list as well. So definitely they're all reloading for this final playoff push. That's going to be interesting to see. You talk about the Red Sox, and they could definitely be in a good decision depending on what we see out of the Yankees and the Blue Jays. The tough part about that is we're the three seed right now, and we've been struggling to overtake those Yankees for a minute. And so with them reloading for the playoffs and the Blue Jays reloading for the playoffs, it really does look like Boston Red Sox chances are diminishing. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, more trades still can be made. We have until I believe 6 p.m. tonight for trades to be announced. So there is plenty of time for the Red Sox to do something, but history suggests that the Red Sox will do nothing. Um,
Unfortunately.
but we'll probably talk about this one more time. Probably next week's episode, we'll just go over if anything else crazy happens. It's definitely been interesting so far, and we'll be covering more baseball as we move into the playoffs. So I'm pretty excited for that. But moving on, I believe we have some stuff going on in the UFC world. If you wanted to talk about that, Brandon.
Yeah, last Saturday, I believe the main card went off at 3 p.m. We had a little fight night card in Abu Dhabi. Some big names on this card. It honestly was more stacked, I think, if you look at like the whole card than UFC 318, which, I kind of would have liked the pay-per-view to be stacked a little bit more than the free card, but is what it is. There were some really good fights on here. So I'll start at the bottom. Nikita Krylov got absolutely starched by Bogdan Guskov in a light heavyweight bout. I believe it was a TKO in round one. Krylov is now on a two-fight losing streak. He got chinned bad. This guy Bogdan Guskov, I think he just entered the rankings now, or was kind of like floating in like the 13 to 15 range, but he looks to be a legitimate prospect in the 205 division. I think he's 18-3. He's got some finishing abilities, so that was a pretty entertaining fight. Flyweights, Asu Almabayev and Jose Ochoa had a pretty entertaining fight. Almabayev got the decision in that one. Uh, Sort of an up and coming fighter, Sharabutin Magomedov, who I believe his nickname is the Pirate. He got a decision win over Mark Andre Barrio. And some words about Shara. He, I believe, was coming off of I think, a loss and then a win. He suffered his first professional defeat to Michael Venom Page, who, if there are any diehard mixed martial arts fans out there, MVP is probably one of the slickest strikers in the game. So it was a loss that was tough, but didn't exactly kill all of his hype. And he got the win here. He again was pretty hittable, but he also gave it as good as he got and managed to land some pretty damaging strikes on Barrio. So another win for Shara puts him potentially closer to being ranked again. Co-main event, bantamweight, Piotr Jan took on Marcus McGee. Jan, of course, was the former bantamweight champion who suffered a pretty tough losing streak over the last couple years. Dropped a decision to Aljamain Sterling. He dropped another decision, a very controversial one, to Sean O'Malley, and then got absolutely ragdolled for 25 minutes by the current champ, Merab Dvalishvili. Well, Piotr Jan got a decision victory over Marcus McGee, who I think was ranked 12th or 13th. And now Jan is basically saying, I'm done fighting down in the rankings. I want the title shot next. So it looks like he's going to sit out and wait his turn for a title shot, which not sure if that's the best decision, but I can't say I blame him. A lot of people think he got robbed in that O'Malley fight. It was close. If you think Jan won that fight, I wouldn't say you're wrong. Um, so it looks like Piotr Jan's going to look to fight the winner of Merab Dvalishvili versus Corey Sandhagen. And then we get to the main event. This main event kind of hurt me. Uh, Robert Whitaker lost a split decision to former one championship double champ Rainier DeRitter. It was a very close fight. I think the significant strike numbers were about even on each side. DeRitter landed a couple takedowns and believe had more overall strikes, was more active against the cage. So tough loss for Bobby Knuckles. I think for the first time in quite literally over 3,000 days, Whitaker is not ranked in the top five at middleweight, which kind of, you know, I like Bobby Knuckles. That was tough to see. It was tough to see him lose like that. He did score a pretty big knockdown in, I believe, the second or third round, but Rainier DeRitter, I got to give him credit. He's one tough son of a gun. He took that shot on the chin, fell over, recovered, and got back up and won the fight. So credit where credit's due. Rainier DeRitter is now a top five middleweight in the UFC and is, I would say, at most one fight away from a title shot, if not getting the next one. He looked pretty hard to deal with in there. Something weird about DeRitter is he has sort of the same. He's like the same puzzle as the current champ at middleweight, Dricus Du Plessis. He's extremely awkward. His striking looks slow and clumsy, but he's so big and strong for the division that most people just don't know how to deal with him. And what DeRitter has going for him is he is an incredible submission specialist. He's fantastic on the ground. I'd say he's pretty much a threat from bottom, top position. He's just an incredibly strong grappler. And there's pretty much only one guy, and I think the top five, top eight, that has the grappling to compete with him, and that's Hamzat Chimaev. So it'll be interesting to see how the middleweight title picture shakes out. Of course, the next two bouts in that division that are going to be consequential for the title picture will be the middleweight title fight, UFC 319, Du Plessis versus Chimaev, and then I believe UFC Paris in early September features Nasruddin Imavov versus Caio Baralho, who are both top seven middleweights. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But if you're a new UFC fan, it might be time to hop on the DeRitter train. He looks pretty hard to beat. He's very fun and kind of like awkward to watch. He, I watched a couple of his interviews. He's kind of funny too. He's got that going for him. He can actually, promo a little bit and get the fans on his side. So yeah, that's about all I got for the UFC. For all of our Bobby Knuckles fans out there, I'm sorry. Just brutal to see Bobby lose back-to-back fights like that, but the Reaper will be back. I don't think he's done yet. I think he's got some more fun fights left in him. So, yeah, you got any thoughts on the UFC right now?
Yeah, I mean, definitely an interesting event for the shakeout of title pictures, like you mentioned. The Ritter's been a pretty fast riser, so that's gonna be interesting to continue to watch. You bring up Piotr Jan, and yeah, we can talk about the loss streak all you want. It's been tough, but Piotr Jan to me, especially in that division, is probably one of the most explosive hitters in the UFC. I mean, you talk about pack and power, he can come out of nowhere and he has like some of the most significant strikes I've ever seen in the UFC. I mean, you look at some of the clips, like the one that comes to mind immediately is that one crazy knee he hit on Sugar Sean.
Oh yeah, that was wild.
Changed the course of almost that entire fight. How did Sugar Sean not get knocked out from that? Hats off to him. Um, I definitely would have scored that fight differently than the judges did if we're being 150% honest. I know you talked about that earlier,
A lot of
but
people would agree with you.
I'm excited to see what he's going to do next. You talk about sitting out waiting for a title fight. That would definitely be exciting, but my one thing is how long is this wait going to be? So that'll definitely be curious to see. Um, the winner of Marab and Sanhagen. I mean, I think probably a majority of people will have Marab walking out of that one with the belt.
Yeah, most likely.
Um, so that's what I have on that. Moving on, we have another big immediate event in the world of combat sports or combat sports entertainment on the docket. We have SummerSlam, the first two-night SummerSlam in the history of the WWE. It was already
Wow.
this it was already the second biggest event on their calendar, and now it's even bigger, so it's definitely going to be fun Super interesting. A lot of matches on the card. I believe we have 11 or 12 matches total, which is pretty big for current WWE. I know their one night pay-per-views stick around 4 or 5 matches. So we're getting a lot from this one. I'll notify our fans to stay on the lookout because Brandon and I maybe, and I emphasize the word maybe, will be doing something interesting for SummerSlam. So keep your eyes on our Instagram. But moving on, we have the full match card listed out here, and I think it would be interesting if we give some predictions and some thoughts, and then we can come back to this later, definitely in the next episode to see what happened, see if we were right, see where we were wrong, and see how it shakes out. So I think I'll start just by leading us straight down the list. So the first match we have is going to be a WWE Champion John Cena versus Cody Rhodes, and I believe this one's going to be in a street fight.
Yep.
What do you got, Brandon?
Well, I saw the some of the promos and fights leading up to this. Cody Rhodes putting John Cena through a table, knocking him out, and then making him sign the contract for it to be a street fight. So that was pretty fun to watch. And I will be rocking with John Cena in this one. I don't see them having Cena lose the belt just yet. Although, will he win clean? Also, probably not. I assume there will be some interference from who I don't know. I just hope it's not Travis Scott at this point. Um, that's that. I'm rocking with Cena in this one.
So to provide some clarity on that, it's sort of come out that the WWE is done with Travis Scott. Apparently, he was just like not motivated enough to be put in the work to become like an actual decent wrestler. So he's out of the picture. And then for those of you that are not WWE fans that are listening to the show at this point, John Cena is a bad guy right now, which sounds a little ridiculous, given the persona of John Cena. But so he's been using some underhanded tactics to win his fights. And I'm inclined to agree with you, Brandon. I think the street fight really lends itself to heel tactics, and I think that benefits John Cena. John Cena has been showing flashes of old, good guy John Cena as of late. So could we see a turn? Could we see some sort of change in this fight? Maybe. I know people have been clamoring for Cody Rhodes to turn heel forever, which is a very interesting take. I mean, I personally don't necessarily see the appeal. I like the edge Cody Rhodes has been carrying around recently. But especially with John Cena leaving soon, you need a big baby face to, carry the company through the future. And that's been Cody Rhodes. That should continue to be Cody Rhodes. But yeah, I got John Cena in this one. I mean, I think his retirement tour's only a little over halfway done. He's got a lot left to do. And I think it just makes more sense if he continues to carry the belt throughout that. Moving on, we have the World Heavyweight Champion Gunther taking on challenger CM Punk.
As much as I have been a CM Punk fan in the past, and I think his walkout music is top notch. Both This Fire Burns and Cult's Personality. I think Gunther's winning this one. I believe did Gunther just get his title back? I feel like it's been pretty recently that he
Yes.
regained it. I don't see him dropping it to Punk in this one. That and Punk's one of those guys that he doesn't need a belt to, be like a huge player in the WWE. So I'm thinking it's a ring general win in this one.
So this decision is tough for me. So obviously, like you said, Gunther won his belt, I believe, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and then his only defense has been against Goldberg so far in Goldberg's retirement match. Um, but Gunther to me is not a boring performer, but a boring persona. I think in the ring, he's fine enough. He hits very hard. I don't think his bag is very deep, but what he does have, he hits really hard. He makes it look really good. But in terms of the character of Gunther, his persona has been the same for years. He either doesn't have the belt and is challenging for a belt because he believes, he's better and, the champion doesn't deserve it or whatever. Or he has the belt and he, cuts the same promo every time he gets into the ring. Basically tells the challenger that they're not worth his time, and then he gets into the ring and he knocks them out or pins them, makes them tap out. And it's just been that way for years, and there's been no real evolution in terms of the character. I think the best way to give Gunther some evolution is give him more time away from the belt. And I understand you wanted him to have the title to sort of juice up that Goldberg retirement match. but I don't see him holding it for very long after that. With that being said, I don't see
Probably
CM
not.
Punk taking it off of him. I don't think CM Punk has been a reliable figure in the history of WWE. I think he's been a lot better as of late in his age, and I think he's a great performer. He's great on the mic, but like I said, he's just not reliable for them. I mean, he's walked out of the company before, so I don't see him winning. I could definitely see Gunther retaining, but with that being said, we have Seth Rollins currently on the sidelines, an undisclosed knee injury. The WWE made it out to be very bad, but in every appearance, Seth Rollins hasn't been wearing a brace. There's been no signs of surgery. So I think they could be keeping Seth Rollins in their back pocket for a surprise Money in the Bank cash in. I
Wouldn't
know
surprise me.
he's got his issues with CM Punk, so I could definitely see that being a big factor in this match. So you know what? I think I'm gonna book it. That's my prediction. Seth Rollins Money in the Bank cash in. That could end up being horribly wrong, but we'll see what happens.
I gotta take a shot in the dark every once in a while. And I mean, with the history that Punk and Rollins have, it would not shock me to see Punk and Gunther go at it for like 40 minutes, have Punk be completely exhausted holding the belt, and then you just hear "Burn it down," and
Yep.
Seth comes running out, like throws the briefcase at the ref, gets the easiest pin of his life, and waltzes off with the belt. Like that would be a pretty Seth Rollins cash in if I'd ever seen one. So who knows? That could be the big hit of the predictions. We'll see.
Yep. Moving on, we have WWE Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill. I'm curious, what do you think about this one, Brandon?
I honestly am not sure about this one. I think as like a ring performer, I think Tiffany Stratton is a little bit better, but I'm not 100% caught up on the story between these two. So, Patty, if you have any insight on who's more likely to walk away with the belt here based on a narrative perspective, have at it.
So my prediction for this one, I think Jade Cargill's walking out with that belt. They've been building up Jade Cargill to be this huge star pretty much ever since she got to the company, I believe, a year and a half ago. And so moving through this, I think this is Jade Cargill's first world title shot. It'll be interesting to see her lose. And then even on the flip side, Tiffany Stratton's held the belt for over a year now. And my one thought is, what other big stars does she have to beat? Because when you put the belt on someone like Tiffany Stratton, who is very young, very much a rising star, you need her beating stars, beating established stars to establish herself. And she's beaten the likes of Bailey, she's beaten the likes of Nia Jax, she's beaten the likes of Charlotte Flair. So there aren't too many more established stars left for her to beat. This is definitely an instance where you have two budding stars going at it. And I think Jade Cargill needs to rub from this one more than Tiffany Stratton does, especially since Tiffany Stratton has had the belt for over a year. This would also give Tiffany Stratton the chance to reset herself a little bit. And Jade Cargill did just come out of the big rivalry with Naomi, which had been going on for a while. So it's time for something fresh for her. So I think it's going to be Jade Cargill coming out of this one personally. I could see it going either way. The WWE has been very big on Tiffany Stratton recently. So that could be another prediction that goes horribly wrong. We'll see. Following that, we have the women's world champion Naomi versus Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley. So it's going to be a triple threat match. The three women that were involved in the main event of WWE's Evolution 2 pay-per-view, which we talked about only a couple weeks ago. And Naomi won the title there in shock fashion with the Money in the Bank cash in after an absolute barn burner from Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley. Um, Definitely a lot of opinions going into this match, Brandon. Who do you got walking out?
In a perfect world, Rhea Ripley beats both of them to hell and walks out with the belt. But I don't. If Naomi just got that belt off of a Money in the Bank cash in, not sure if the WWE would be super keen to rip it away. If they do, I think it would be Io Sky that would get it. I think Rhea Ripley's at the point of like superstardom now where she doesn't really need a belt to be a big name. And, she's got beef. I think it's hilarious whenever she fights Liv Morgan and Liv Morgan just tries to run away and Rhea just like drags her back into the ring and beats the crap out of her. That's always entertaining. So I'm gonna rock with Naomi in this one. I think the Money in the Bank cash in is gonna keep it in this pay live event.
Premium
Did I
live
get
event.
that
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Premium live event. All right, just making sure I get the right terminology here.
Yeah. I have a hard time disagreeing with you on this one. I'm also going with Naomi. I think when she just won the belt, it would be kind of ridiculous to take the belt off her. I think this is also just a really good opportunity for Naomi to showcase herself. I think when you talk about modern WWE, I mean, you can talk about like a Charlotte Flair, you can talk about a Becky Lynch, you can talk about a Bayley, but in my eyes, the two biggest stars in the women's division as it stands right now are going to be Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. So I think getting that rub, beating both of them, is a great opportunity for Naomi. Um, I also think Rhea Ripley definitely needs more time away from the belt. I think she's another character like Gunther, where her entire persona has been built around the title because of how dominant she's been. And I don't think Rhea Ripley's gotten boring. I'm not saying that in any way, but I do think more opportunity to refresh and redefine her character would be very positive, give her something else to do for a little bit. So I don't really see her winning this one. And Io Sky just lost it. Io Sky, we talked about how underwhelming that title run was for how prolific of a performer she was. But with that being said, she had a few incredible defenses, especially at the start of the reign. And I would be kind of shocked to see her win it back so fast. She has seen unbelievable heights of popularity recently among WWE fans. I think she's really caught fire in the midst of this last title reign. So would it surprise me? No, not really. Maybe a little bit, but I'm still gonna be putting my money on Naomi for this one. Definitely an exciting match to look out for, though.
Word.
After that, we have the Women's Intercontinental Champion Becky Lynch defending her title versus Lyra Valkyria in a rematch from WWE Evolution 2. What do you got, Brandon?
Yeah, yeah. I don't screw the storyline here. We, and I emphasize we are rocking with Becky Lynch in this one. Becky Lynch is probably one of my favorite women's wrestlers in the whole company. We are rocking. We again, I'll emphasize we are rocking with Becky Lynch in this one.
So I really don't know who's coming out of this one, to tell you the truth. I would like to see a Lyra Valkyria win. I think Lyra is a more impressive performer right now. I think she is also a much more fresh star. She's been being built up very recently. I think a win like this on a stage like that would be very huge. And to me, like this whole storyline has been, mentor versus mentee. Um, in their history, Becky Lynch was very much a mentor to Lyra Valkyria, and of course they've come to blows recently. But in a story like that, especially if this is the last match, I would be very shocked to see a Becky Lynch win. This one feels like a very textbook. The mentee is going to overcome the mentor. The one sort of crux, or the one sort of, problem with that is Becky Lynch did just win the title off of Lyra. So with that being said, I could see her retaining just for that. But Becky Lynch is also the sort of star where how long do you want to keep her in the mid card division? Because the Intercontinental Championship is a mid card title, and Becky Lynch is world title talent. Um, she's one of the biggest stars as we mentioned a couple times. So I think I'm gonna go with Lyra. I'm not super confident in that decision.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I could definitely see a sort of like passing of the torch moment. And I think they recently did that with who in the men's division. It would be kind of like and not to say that I endorse Jey Uso fandom in any capacity because I don't, but like Jey Uso dropping the Intercontinental title and then getting the heavyweight belt for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like try maybe Becky loses the Intercontinental one and then starts challenging for a bigger belt. That I can see that happening. That I wouldn't be upset with that.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see. That's the one of the matches on this card where I'm the least confident in knowing the outcome, which is definitely exciting. I think matches are more fun when you have no idea what the heck's going to happen. Following that, we have a tag team match of Randy Orton and celebrity singer Jelly Roll versus
Oh
Logan
God,
Paul and an
it's over.
undisclosed partner at this time. So, for some context, Jelly Roll has recently involved himself with the WWE. So, he's teamed up with Randy Orton to take on Logan Paul. And originally, Scottish superstar Drew McIntyre, who has been having passport issues, so we won't be able to attend SummerSlam. He's stuck in Scotland, unfortunately. But so
Oof.
Logan Paul needs a partner. So it's become apparent that they're probably going to leave this a surprise until the match itself. I could
Yeah.
see Logan Paul doing something crazy and bringing out like a KSI or like another, internet sensation. Could we see Jake Paul in the WWE? Maybe. The Miz has thrown his name into the ring for being Logan Paul's partner. He released a pretty cool video, which is always nice to see the Miz get serious. It's funny saying he's getting serious in a storyline involving Logan Paul and Jelly Roll. But the Miz has kind of been sidelined very recently in the WWE, and he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's done a ton for the company, so to see him, show off his chops has been exciting. I'd love to see him in the match. But Brandon, I'm curious, do you have a prediction for who Logan Paul's partner is going to be and who do you have winning this one?
Um, as far as printing his partner, I have basically no clue. I don't know what direction the WWE are gonna go in with this. Wouldn't hate seeing the Miz. I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm trying to think of like just names. What if Austin Theory shows up? Just say no, it's not gonna happen. But
Yeah, I don't think so.
the theory
I
fan in
think
me would love it, but no, it just doesn't make sense. And as far as who I think is gonna win, this is definitely a match where I have no. I think it hinges a lot on who they pick for Logan Paul's partner. But this Randy Orton and Jelly Roll team up has me a little confused. Like what? This is might be one of the most random things I've seen in like all of wrestling. Like what? Did Jelly Roll just wake up and be like, dude, let me team up with RKO? Like that would be sick. Like come on.
yeah, so a little
Uh,
like history on this one. So a lot of wrestlers, a lot of celebrities that try to get into wrestling, especially in their first matches, which I don't know how much further Jelly Roll is going to be going into the WWE. And for that reason, I definitely have Jelly Roll and Randy Orton winning this one. I mean, I think something crazy could happen with whoever Logan Paul's partner is going to end up being. But you put a celebrity in their debut match, I have a hard time seeing them lose. But the reason they have this being as a tag team match is they do this a lot with celebrities getting into wrestling where they're still very green, maybe not the best like like technical wrestling or peak athletes. So they'll have like more experienced wrestlers in there with them to sort of like call spots and keep them safe. And that's why Randy Orton's going to be in this one. We've seen this before. I believe Bad Bunny's first match in the WWE was a tag match. He teamed up with Damian Priest. Um, Logan Paul's first match was a tag team match. Funnily enough, he teamed up with The Miz in that one to face Rey and Dominic Mysterio. And then you can go back even further than that. We had the Green Arrow, Stephen Amell, jumping into a WWE ring, and he teamed up with Neville to take on Wade Barrett and I believe it was Cody Rhodes, Stardust.
Shout out Green Arrow. Shout out Stephen Amell. Just goaded actor, goaded TV show.
Yep.
No, that's a good point. I hadn't really considered the sort of like pattern of teaming up these new celebrities with established veterans. That dude, Randy Orton better beat the crap out of an RKO Logan Paul at least 5 times. At least five.
I can see it
I
coming,
want.
truth be told.
I mean, does this mean that Logan Paul is a very effective in-ring performer and he's very good on the mic? Yes. I'm not going to deny that. He's very good. He's very good at making me hate him, though. I can't stand him. I would absolutely love to see Randy Orton just go absolutely nuclear and put him through like the commentary desk, over the top rope, like through a folding table, like the whole 9 yards. So I will definitely be pulling for Randy Orton and Jelly Roll in this matchup.
Yeah, I definitely see them winning this too. I mean, it's just the fact that you got a celebrity in the ring. Unless Jelly Roll plans on sticking around for a long time and building a story here, I don't see them losing. But moving on, we have another pretty fun one. We have Intercontinental Champion Dominic Mysterio versus AJ Styles, who he's been ducking for months now. He's been hiding behind medical paperwork. And we've seen probably some of the funniest work of AJ Styles' career. I mean, he's dressed up as a valet, he's dressed up as a janitor, he's snuck into the Judgment Day's locker room, all to
He was
try and,
praying. He
yep.
was praying to get a shot at Dirty Dom.
So
Oh my goodness.
this is one where I could see it go either way, personally. I think
Same.
Dominic Mysterio is another, he's probably one of the biggest budding heels in the industry. I mean, you just see this guy and he's such
He's
like a
so good at it.
cowardly, dastardly heel. Um, which you can attribute to his parenting. His deadbeat father clearly didn't raise him right. But a win over AJ Styles would be huge for him. But at the same time, AJ Styles is due for a big win. And I think in a story like this, where you've had AJ absolutely hounding this man for months, doing all sorts of ridiculous stuff, praying to God to make sure Dominic Mysterio's healthy, dressing up as a janitor, just doing all this ridiculous stuff. It's been like a new leaf. It's been very fresh for AJ Styles. And I'd love to see where they take this. Like, not necessarily just straight up funny because he's obviously still a serious character, but there's been this very goofy aspect to AJ Styles that I've been personally enjoying. So I'd love to see AJ walk out of this one as much as I love Dominic Mysterio. I think it's time for Dominic Mysterio and the Judgment Day as a whole to start doing something else, and I think AJ is due for a big win with how much work he's been doing.
I would agree. I'll be rocking with AJ Styles in this one. Again, like you said, I think his like recent line of promos and whatever, all the stuff. It's like it's goofy. It's fun to watch. It's been really fun to watch. I've been invested in it. And Dom Mysterio like might be one of the best, if not the best, young heel in the game. I mean, everything he does is just so slimy and just like crooked. Like he's one of the only wrestlers that I've seen that turned heel while already being heel. Like that takes some talent when you're already a bad guy and no one in the crowd likes you, and then you just double down on it and somehow make yourself an even more despicable bad guy. So yeah, Dom is getting absolutely tossed and mollywopped. The phenomenal one should and I think he will get a win here.
Yeah, the only way I could see Dominic Mysterio kind of holding on to this one is Rey Mysterio spoken on potentially winding down soon. He says he still feels good, but he is getting older. So if Rey Mysterio plans to retire anytime soon, we know that match is going to be versus Dominic Mysterio again. We know they're running that back. And so to have the added
Mhm.
stakes of the Intercontinental Championship being involved in that match would definitely heighten it. So if that's coming anytime soon, I see Dominic Mysterio winning this one. But I think Ray's still got some time left. I'm going with AJ Styles. Dominic Mysterio will win another belt. He's got plenty of time. Dom's 26, 27. He's a young guy. He's got plenty of time to keep building himself. I think it's time for AJ Styles to get his due. And that's all I have to say on that one. Moving on, we have the other men's mid card title. We have U.S. champion Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu in a steel cage match. I know you have some very explicit opinions on Solo Sikoa, Mr. Brandon. I'm curious who you got winning this one.
Who do I got winning this one? You phrase it as if it's a question when it's really not. Solo Sikoa is getting absolutely flatlined by Jacob Fatu. It is a steel cage match. Jacob Fatu is like he's just like a bull in a china shop. He just runs people over. He's jacked. He's everything that Solo Sikoa is just like a wannabe Roman Reigns, but he's there's none of the aura. Absolutely none. Jacob Fatu is going to beat the crap out of him, and I will be sitting, I will be watching, and I will be laughing. Um, as Jacob Fatu wins this match. That's a bold prediction. If I'm wrong and we come back to this in like a week and Sikoa somehow retains his title, y'all can make fun of me then. I'll take it on the chin. But Fatu, just you know what you have to do.
So
That's what I got to say on that one.
I think I'm going the opposite way on this one. I'm taking Solo Sikoa. And the reason I say this, we talk
What are we
about,
doing?
the Dominic Mysterio and AJ Styles story being a funny one. Solo Sikoa, probably this entire year, has maybe been the funniest wrestler in the WWE. I mean, you look at what he did in the Royal Rumble and just moving on, he just loves mocking people. Like he did the Penta Walk in the Money in the Bank match. He stole like every person's like signature like taunt. He's made fun of Jey Uso's yeet before. He's just like a super comedic wrestler, and I think this story has sort of played into that a little bit. Because while it's been super serious, because Jacob Fatu is most certainly a serious guy, and Solo just stole the title from Jacob Fatu. Solo Sikoa got sent to jail. He was arrested for a hit and run. Like they've been on some goofy stuff with this one. I think it really lends itself to Solo. And with him just winning the belt, I think he retains this one personally. I could see it going either way. This is another one where it's very hard to predict. But with the way Solo Sikoa has been moving recently, I think I'm backing him up on this one. Moving on, we have the women's tag team champions, the Judgment Day, Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez, taking on two legends, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. What do you got, Brandon?
Not sure about this one. I think my tendency is to lean towards the Judgment Day just because, the Judgment Day, that's a pretty big faction. But really not sure about this one. I'd say this is going to be fun to watch simply for the fact that I don't really know what direction they're going to go in.
Yeah, so for those that don't know the WWE very well, the Judgment Day has been probably the most consistent heel, stable, or bad guy faction since um, Roman Reigns and the Island of Relevancy fell apart, um, the Bloodline. And right now, they got a lot of people in the faction. We got Dominic Mysterio, who could be winning, could be losing. We've got, I believe, the men's tag champions, Finn Balor and JD McDonough. So they've really got gold all around, including the women's tag champions, Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. I think, you know, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair definitely could win this one. They have an immense amount of star power. They're two of the biggest names in the history of women's wrestling. But I think this match for them really lends itself to the fact that they're eventually going to fight each other. I think there's no world where at least by WrestleMania we don't see Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss coming to blows. I think they could prolong that by having them win the women's tag titles, but at the same time, when the Judgment Day won the women's tag team championships, Roxanne Perez was not part of that equation. They were won by Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. And I don't think you can take them away from the Judgment Day. I don't think you can end this story their pure dominance, the fact that the entire faction is littered with gold. I don't think you can end that until Liv Morgan comes back because that creates an interesting conflict between Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez, who already don't like each other very much. So I think when you talk about like storylines and looking at the future, it would be hard to see the Judgment Day lose. I could see a win for Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. I mean, they win literally everything. But I think this more lends itself to the fact that they're eventually going to beat the hell out of each other. So that's really all I have to say about that one. Moving on, we have the end of a blood feud. We got Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross, and I'll make this one short and simple. Karrion Kross got to win this one. Karrion Kross has been among wrestling fans probably one of the hottest, fastest rising stars, and WWE's done nothing with it. He already fought Sami Zayn, and they had Sami Zayn win for absolutely no reason. Karrion Kross better walk out of this one with the W, or they're going to have a lot of problems with a lot of people. I'm curious if you have a differing opinion, Brandon, but I think this one should be
No,
pretty unanimous.
I'd have to agree. Carrying Cross is kind of in a must-win scenario. And as much as I'm not the biggest Sami Zayn fan, I think yeah, I'm gonna say Karrion Cross wins this one. I personally don't understand like the level of hype that he has, but it is undisputable that he's got a lot of fans behind him, and yeah, he cannot be dropping two in a row to Sami Zayn.
Yeah, so you say you don't understand the hype behind Karrion Kross, and to tell you the truth, I'm not the biggest Karrion Kross fan either. I think he's definitely talented. I think his work on the microphone and sort of the mind games he's able to play are very interesting. I think he just needs more like screen time to really get more of that across because his stories really are slow burn stories, and you can't do that when you don't have the time to tell a slow burn story. But on the other side, we got Sami Zayn, who wins everything for absolutely no reason. Don't get me wrong, Sami Zayn's
Yeah.
an interesting wrestler, but he's been portraying this like underdog, scrappy fighter persona for years. When you've won championships, you basically beat Roman Reigns in your hometown of Montreal. While Roman technically won underhandedly, you had him beat dead to rights. Like you're not an underdog anymore and still portraying yourself like that when you've won these matches over like so many other real underdogs is really frustrating. I'm not a big Sami Zayn fan for that reason. I think he's a fine wrestler. I think he's a fine character, but I think the underdog persona just does not fit where he's at in his career. And for that reason, I want to see Karrion Kross absolutely bury him at SummerSlam.
I think a lot of the WWE fandom will be with you on that one.
Absolutely. And then moving on, we've got two more matches. Both of them are tag team matches. The first of which is going to be Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, two members of the original Bloodline, versus two members of Seth Rollins' faction. I don't believe they have a name yet, but it's going to be Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. I personally think Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed are going to win this one. I'll probably be executed for saying that with how many Roman Reigns and Jey Uso fans there are. But a win for Braun Breaker and a win for Bronson Reed when they're much more like younger, budding stars in this faction that was just established and is supposed to be hyper dominant, they definitely need to win. Will they win it clean? Probably not. I mean, they have Paul Heyman in their corner, supporting them. So will they ever win clean? I highly doubt it. But they need this win a whole lot more than two established stars like Roman Reigns and Jey Uso do. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso have been on top of the game for 5 years. One loss is not going to hurt them. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, Braun Breaker especially has been such like a breakout star for the WWE. He's an absolute animal. He's got probably the best. Which will be really cool though is Roman Reigns versus Braun Breaker is probably like two of the best spears in the entire company going head to head. So it'll be absolute fireworks. I'm sure Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns and Uso will exchange words, and that'll be fun to watch. But in terms of who comes out with the win, I'm gonna have to go with Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. I don't see them, like you said, younger stars versus more established ones. I think a win here would definitely solidify them as absolute animals. I mean, you kind of have to be to take down Roman Reigns. And Braun Breaker is just, he's electric. He's probably one of the better in-ring performers they've got in the entire company. And I mean, how does he run around the ring so fast? He gains so much like momentum bouncing off the ring, and then he just like sends someone flying with the spear. It's pure cinema.
Yeah, Braun is definitely probably the most explosive performer in the entire WWE right now, and his cardio is absolutely absurd. It's going to be a super fun match to watch, I think, regardless, but I don't think you can have those two guys losing, especially if Seth Rollins is out right now. I think they have to maintain a level of dominance to, keep the faction ready for when he comes back to keep the story hot. But moving on, the last match on the card is a six-pack tables, ladders, and chairs tag team match for the WWE Tag Team Championships. So this one's going to be pretty nuts. Tag team ladder matches are always pretty insane, and you're just going to have so many bodies in the ring. But so we've got the champions, the Wyatt Six, Dexter Lumis and Joe Gacy taking on Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, the Street Profits, Nathan Frazier and Axiom, DIY and Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, the Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley. So a lot of teams, a lot of different ways this could go. Who you got, Brandon?
In terms of who I think is going to win, I have no clue. But in terms of who I want to win, I love the Motor City Machine Guns. I love their look. I love the shtick they got going. I think they've been like super fun to watch since they came to WWE. And I mean, come on, Motor City Machine Guns. That is a cold name for a tag team duo. Um, then again, I do like the Street Profits and the Wyatt Six are pretty cool. So I'm more in terms of like a fan perspective. I'm just hoping for a really really entertaining match, which I think it will be.
Yeah, this match is probably going to be the highlight of whichever night it's on. I think it's really hard to predict just considering how many teams are in it. The Wyatt Six did just recently win the belt, so that's something interesting to note. With that being said, the Wyatt Six are very much a supernatural gimmick. They're based off Bray Wyatt's The Fiend. Rest in peace to Bray Wyatt. But in my opinion, I think in the opinion of many people, Gold does not lend itself to supernatural gimmicks. So can they hold the belt? Yeah. Should they hold the belt for a long time? No, I really don't think so. If you're supposed to be the boogeyman, like you shouldn't be looking for championships. I feel like your motives kind of need to be different to make a gimmick like that work. So we'll see what happens. They definitely could retain just because of how recently they got the belts, but I personally think someone else is walking out of this one. Who it's gonna be, you give a shout to the Motor City Machine Guns, definitely a good option. I think I'm gonna go with the Street Profits personally. I don't know why, but that's just the way we're going with it. And that's going to be the last match of SummerSlam. So we'll definitely have to return to this next week to talk about the predictions we made and just the event as a whole. But following that, we do have a few viewer questions to answer today. The first one is a bit of a doozy. We got a couple items on this list from Drew M. in Weathersfield, Connecticut. Can we get thoughts on Hulk Hogan's death, Gilbert Arenas arrested for illegal gambling scheme, and the WNBA? So I think we'll start at the top of his list and then work our way down. Um, Hulk Hogan's death. So I think I want to start on this one by saying that Hulk Hogan is definitely probably one of the most polarizing figures in the history of professional wrestling. You have sides talking about, we have to honor him and respect him because of how much he did for the business. And then you have the other side saying, he can rot for being a horrible person. Which, for those that don't know, yes, Hulk Hogan is probably one of the most prolific characters in the history of professional wrestling. The first WrestleMania probably wouldn't have happened without him. The WWE would not be as big as it is without him. With that being said, Hulk Hogan is also probably one of the most like absurdly racist people I've ever seen in a position of popularity, especially, with how like widely loved he was for a long time. He said some pretty like diabolical things later in his life, and he showed like little to no remorse for saying them. Um, he basically came out and saying like, "Oh, just like growing up, that's what people said, and so I just like got used to it." And that's not an excuse. And
No.
there are like some even worse things he said, which are really just heinous, horrible racist things. And I don't think you can excuse that just because of like what he did for the wrestling industry. You can acknowledge that, like, yeah, he was good, he was important for the wrestling industry, but he was not a good person, and you have to acknowledge that. On top of that, he was also a union buster. The first time WWE superstars tried to put a union together for themselves, Hulk Hogan is the one that snitched to Vince McMahon and brought that crumbling down. So again, very polarizing figure, and there are people like that in the wrestling world. I mean, you look at Chris Benoit, where people can talk about how great of a wrestler Chris Benoit was, but was he a good person? No, he was a deeply, horribly um troubled person. And I think,
Damaged individual.
yeah, Hulk Hogan, well, he never stepped to the levels of violence that Chris Benoit did. He said some pretty horrible things and never really showed any remorse for them, and he did some pretty horrible things that sort of set his coworkers back years. So I don't know what else to say following that.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. Obviously, you want to, show your respect to like, the people that knew him and his family and all that. You don't want to be openly disrespectful in a situation like this involving a death, but at the same time, it's important to not like let all of that stuff cloud your judgment on who he was as a person. And just sort of remember that this is not someone that is to be like idolized. Um, just because, for better or for worse, we do know the stuff he said. If anyone is curious, um, on what his exact words were, it is not hard to find on the internet. Um, yeah, just a very difficult and touchy situation. Like you said, he was incredibly important to the wrestling world. Um, but not someone who you want to put up on a pedestal.
Yeah, I know the WWE obviously did like moments of silence for Hulk Hogan on all three of their shows, which I think with how much he did for the WWE or how popular he made it, obviously, as we said, he was not good for wrestlers, but he was good for the business, I suppose. That makes sense. One thing I'll give to AEW is they did not do a moment of silence for Hulk Hogan. And, a lot of people criticize them for that, but I got to shout out Tony Khan for sort of sticking to his guns. He's been very vocal about his dislike for Hulk Hogan, and to switch up now that he's dead would feel very disingenuous. So I thought that was very well done on his part. I don't want to speak too much further on that. Um, but yeah, very interesting, interesting guy. Moving on, Gilbert Arenas arrested for illegal gambling scheme. So I haven't actually read the full story on Gilbert Arenas yet. I'm curious if you have any insight into this one, Brandon.
Not a ton. I've only sort of scanned the headlines and it's popped up a couple times on social media and whatnot. Um, my gut reaction was this dude running an illegal gambling scheme. Like I don't like Gilbert Arenas. He hates on Jason Tatum and the Celtics all the time, literally whenever he gets a microphone. And it's like, oh, shocker, another professional athlete thinks they're above the law and tried to get away with something scummy, and they didn't. Not a ton of sympathy. I mean, I'm sure Gilbert Arenas made plenty of money in his playing career. Why he's running an illegal gambling ring, um, out of his Encino mansion in California, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's kind
I
of
think
crazy.
if he's convicted, I think he faces up to 5 years in prison on uh I think there's like three charges. So he could I think 15-year max in prison. It's just I don't know. I'm sure the longer as we go on, more details will come out about this, and we'll know exactly what he's being charged with and exactly what was going on. But as of right now, um, it doesn't shock me anymore. There are
Yeah,
plenty of former professional athletes who do stuff like this and think they're going to get away with it. So,
I don't want to say like too much because obviously we don't know the full situation, so it could be like a lot worse than just gambling. But if it is just gambling, first of all, Gil, just like fly yourself to Vegas. I mean, you definitely have money from your playing career, and the podcast has been wildly successful. So like, just fly yourself to Vegas. But with that being said, it definitely is interesting to see. I mean, we see professional athletes get away with a lot worse than illegal gambling all the time. I mean, you can talk about some things that have happened in recent years. You got Josh Giddey, and then going back even further than that, you got like Karl Malone, who get away with like not even a slap on the wrist. So it's kind of interesting to see how once it starts affecting people's money, how serious um, the government will get with that. It's just kind of silly. I mean, Gil's it's a stupid decision. Like, come on, go to Vegas, go to Vegas, enjoy yourself.
for real.
But moving on from that, the last thing Drew M wanted us to talk about was the WNBA. We'll definitely talk more about the WNBA as we get closer to the playoffs as well. But I mean, as it stands right now, leading the East, we got the reigning champion New York Liberty and former MVP Breanna Stewart at the top of the standings. But they are being outshone right now by the Minnesota Lynx and the MVP frontrunner Nafisa Collier, who's been impressive all season as an individual, and then as a team, obviously they have the best record in the league. So that's been pretty exciting. It's been a pretty interesting season to watch. I think obviously a lot of the conversation around the WNBA also obviously follows Caitlin Clark. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. But I did want to highlight, what else is going on because obviously the league does have other incredible players doing their own thing. Another team I wanted to bring up was the Golden State Valkyries. They were the expansion team that came this year. The first in a wave. I believe Portland's also getting their own team next year. So it's definitely interesting, a big time of expansion for the league as viewership rises. I think it's a smart idea. You get more local fan bases into the sport. Um, but the Valkyries themselves are 12 and 13, which is not horrible. And I think that's always something interesting to look at because there's such like across all sports, there's such like a wide varying success from expansion teams. I mean, you look at like the Golden Knights in their earliest years, and like they almost won the Stanley Cup coming off their expansion. So it doesn't have to do with like the sport of basketball. Like, is it more star based where, because you weren't able to get any crazy superstars in the expansion, is that why they're not succeeding as much as like a hockey team would? Probably. But I do think it's interesting to note that, 12 and 13 is definitely not bad. I think finding yourself at the middle of the road right at the start of your franchise's career is not going to be great. I feel like you definitely either want to be tanking to get those stars for yourself through the draft, or you want to be just succeeding right away. But it's interesting to follow expansion teams as they build and grow, so I definitely wanted to bring them up. Um, what is interesting is the team currently is being led by Kayla Thornton, who represented them in the WNBA All-Star game and is the first undrafted player to make the All-Star game for the WNBA since 2019. So that's definitely really impressive and definitely a shout out to the Valkyries front office for seeing talent like that. So their future is definitely going to be exciting. I'm curious to see what happens through the future of the WNBA as the Liberty seek to repeat. The Lynx are looking dominant. I'm curious if you have any thoughts, Brandon, if there have been any teams you've been paying attention to.
Honestly, as far as the WNBA is concerned, the headlines that I've been seeing often pertain to like it's either people hating on Caitlin Clark, people saying she's either overrated or she's like the greatest thing to happen to basketball. I've seen one of her teammates, Sophie Cunningham, recently got fined, I think $500
Yep.
for making comments about the refs. I'm just like, what is that? Like, oh no, I've been fined $500. She's a professional athlete. Like that's just seems kind of like pointless in my
Which,
opinion.
first of all, let me say, making that TikTok was a bad idea. Like, you had to have known the WNBA wasn't gonna like that. I mean, you get fined for talking about refs in press conferences, so why would you not get fined for a TikTok? Like, that was just overall a very dumb idea. But yeah, like $500 is kind of strange.
Not good. I don't think it's gonna discourage Sophie Cunningham from making further comments about the refs if all she gets is a $500 fine. And yeah, other than that, I think it's been a pretty important, I'd say pretty important year for the WNBA. Obviously, it's probably their most covered season in league history. Like this is the most media coverage they've probably gotten in their history. And if you're a WNBA fan, if you're just a fan of women's sports in general, you really hope that the WNBA is smart about this and they use this surge in popularity to really build the league, build the stars that they have, because there are stars that are emerging in this league. If you just build that up and sort of facilitate the growth of your popularity, you might get to a point where the WNBA is like a financially viable league with like its own fans because it's not a secret that for years it's been supported largely by the NBA. But I think all the coverage they've got, all of the relevance that they've gained, I think puts them one step closer to, sort of maybe not being on the same playing field as the NBA, but getting them out of the sort of financial rut that they've been in.
Yeah. Um, yeah, obviously a lot of the coverage, a lot of the dynamic around the WNBA has been a lot of these like new stars, specifically Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, but then you have like Paige Beckers coming in this year. We talked about that game a couple episodes ago where they sold like over 20,000 tickets for the Wings versus the Fever. Um, a lot of people will hate on like Angel Reese specifically for her behavior surrounding like Caitlin Clark. And the one thing I'll say to that is like, yeah, it seems a little strange when you look at it, but rivalries like that are going to be good for the WNBA. I mean, you look at the NBA, and in some of their most formative years, that league was built around Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, right? And the rivalry they had. And is there a different dynamic to this one? Yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, a rivalry like that is going to be good for the sport. The one thing that does shock me, like all the hate coming from players is specifically like a lot of the older or retired players. Like you'll see people like Sue Bird and like Deanna Taurasi making these crazy comments about like the up and coming players, specifically Caitlin Clark, and that's one thing that doesn't like make sense to me. Because especially now as you're like transitioning into media, like don't you want positive coverage of the league that you helped build? Like is it jealousy? Like is that the reason like they're trying to tear down these new players as the league finds new success? Like I'd never like we talk about the most formative years of the NBA being like the early 80s. I've never seen like Magic Johnson or Larry Bird like talk this negatively about like up and coming players. Like you never heard
Yeah,
them
it's
like talk crazy
strange.
about Michael Jordan.
No, it's definitely a little bit off, and it definitely puts a sort of sour taste in people's mouths to watch these former stars. And I think, like you said, I think jealousy maybe could be a play. Maybe there's a little bit of like, why is like she all the bee's knees? Why is she getting all this media attention and all this coverage? Why didn't I get that when I was playing? Obviously I don't know if that's the reason. It's impossible to say, but potentially could be a factor here. And God, I think another name that has to be brought up is Kelsey Plum has been also gaining a lot of negative attention in media coverage. She's been sort of very vocally throwing Caitlin Clark under the bus for like seemingly random and trivial things, which has not made her any new fans. And it's tough. It's tough to see all this like negative media attention on. I know you said a lot of it's directed towards Angel Reese, and yeah, it is. People are absolutely the discourse on Angel Reese on the internet is absolutely insane. It's pretty much always just like, oh, Angel Reese sucks. She's a horrible basketball player. She like
Yeah, which
misses layups, which like on the one hand, it's negative. On the other hand, the fact that people are watching the games close enough to dissect whether she's a good player or not is a testament to the fact that more and more people actually are watching these games and becoming somewhat invested with the league and its big names.
I think like we can talk about Angel Reese for a minute. I think like the one thing that's interesting about the discourse surrounding Angel Reese is again like how many people will like hate on her for like literally everything she does. And I think in certain ways, like the way she speaks about herself and other people does sort of invite that a little bit. But with that being said, like it gets ridiculous at a certain point because you'll see like like these highlight reels on social media of her just like missing layups and like yeah, like should you be in the lab working on your layup? Probably. But she's probably the most prolific rebounder that the WNBA has ever seen, specifically on the offensive glass. And I mean, the NBA has seen individuals before. You look at Dennis Rodman, who's like one of the most touted players in NBA history. He couldn't score at all. Like
No,
all he did
not
was
much of an
grab
offensive threat.
boards, and he won championships with Michael Jordan. So like there is a place for people that all they do is like, block shots and rebound. And obviously, do some of these layups look kind of funny? Yeah, sure. But the discourse surrounding it has gotten a little ridiculous because it's also her second year in the league, right? Like
Yep,
players have plenty of time to develop.
agreed.
But that's kind of all I have to say on that specifically. And obviously, our conversation turned towards Caitlin Clark and Angela Reese. But there are still plenty of other stars in the WNBA, like we talked about in Nafisa Collier. Um, there's plenty going on in that league that's worth watching, and I'm excited as expansion continues. You get more fan bases in the league. Hopefully, they bring something to Boston soon. We'll see. I mean, we do have the Connecticut Sun, which I guess are close enough, but like it's Connecticut.
Yeah,
So moving on, that was the end of our
Connecticut.
question from Drew M. From Logan M in Bellingham, Mass. What do you think is next for Shannon Sharp?
Quick answer for that, his own podcast. I think Shannon Sharp is such a big name and big personality that he doesn't need the backing of an ESPN to be just fine. He's gonna do his podcast. He's still gonna be a big name in sports media. Just please, Shannon, just hang out and do your podcast,
Stop
man.
wilding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
stop wilding is a very good way to put it. If we're trying to phrase it delicately, you got your podcast, you got your money. Just do what the rest of the world does. Maybe golf a little, play some Xbox with your boys, film your podcast. Like What's
Yeah,
that? Come on, man.
yeah.
Come on, man.
Following like what happened and his firing and all the controversy, which I don't want to speak too much on the controversy because like I don't know anything about it, or I don't know enough about it, I should say, and it really is like a delicate situation. Following what happened, at first my thought was like it wouldn't surprise me if Shannon Sharp sort of just like rode off into the sunset, enjoyed himself a nice retirement, found himself an island to go bum on somewhere. That's what I'd do if I had his money and, you know, ended up in a situation like that. But with that being said, he also just lost $50 million. So
Yeah,
how much money does he have left? Probably enough. Probably enough, but is it time for
50
Shannon
million
Sharp to keep
less.
grinding? Maybe. Um,
I'm sure you
s-
can.
so that's all I got for that. And then our last question from James A. in Bellingham, Massachusetts. Start, bench, cut, turkey, ham, roast beef. And I believe we're specifically talking about like the deli meat versions of this. I'm not no
Yeah, like
like
lunch meat.
Thanksgiving ham or like, oh sorry, Thanksgiving turkey or like Easter ham, anything like that.
No,
So
we're talking
specifically the
like
lunch
strictly
meats.
lunch meat. Yeah.
So
All right. I'm gonna go start roast beef, bench ham, cut turkey. And look, that's no disrespect to turkey. And if it's a Thanksgiving turkey, that would change things. But if we're talking strictly lunch meat, roast beef is like the clear starter here. Like, come on, roast beef is fire. It's gas. Ham is like slightly below it, and that just means we have to cut. We have to cut turkey loose.
yeah, so I think that's the perfect list too. And I mean, roast beef is just like the most explosive player in this game. I mean, you get the most production out of roast beef, got the most flavor by a mile, in my
Definitely.
opinion. Works it works great with condiments. You pair it well with other things. Really makes the whole sandwich better. Ham kind of does the same thing, but a little bit worse. Again, it works great with like a lot of condiments. So you can really build a good sandwich around ham. Turkey, in my eyes, is just the most bland one. Like
I would have to agree.
a turkey sandwich isn't made great by the turkey. It's made great by everything else you put in there. And for that reason,
Yeah.
that's just not the production you want out of a rotational piece, which is why
No.
turkey's getting cut here.
And like roast beef is the type of player you can plug into any system and he'll be that guy. You have Ham, which maybe you can't do that, but his duo with Mustard is, I mean, come
Yep.
on. That's clean. That's a classic. It works every time. Like, come on. I don't see that sort of synergy or star power from Turkey, and
No.
that's ultimately going to land it in the cut spot.
Because I mean, you look at Turkey's best duos, right? You can look at Turkey's best duos in years past, and okay, like my mind immediately goes to cranberry sauce. You got your turkey and
Yeah.
your cranberry sauce, but who's doing cranberry sauce on like, just like a brown bag sandwich? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like that's a little
outside
OD.
of like the outside of the week after Thanksgiving, you're not seeing that.
Nope.
And like another sandwich that comes to mind is a turkey BLT. But like I think the emphasis on that is turkey's sort of a rotation piece in that sandwich. It's the BLT that's really the focus
The bacon is the
of
star of
that
that
group.
team.
Exactly. So turkey I don't think has the ability to be that number one option the way that a roast beef or a ham can be.
Exactly. I think that's a great
Good
take and
question from James. Good question
definitely a
from James.
definitely a great way to end the episode. As a reminder, if you have any questions for the show, anyone out there listening, you can submit them. I believe you can find our link tree with the question submission form is going to be on our Instagram, the play-by-play_podcast. You'll also find it anywhere you're listening to this episode. You should be able to find it on YouTube or Spotify. We check the question submission form before we record every single episode. So submit a question whenever you want. And if we find it and we like it, we'll definitely answer it. Other than that, Brandon, if you've got nothing else, then that will do it. Thank you for
Yeah,
listening.
that's it for us.
Thank you for listening to the Play by Play with Patrick and Brandon. Make sure to check out our Instagram and stay on the lookout for new episodes on YouTube or Spotify.